Hello, my name is David Duffy. I'm a retired physician who practiced internal medicine for 38 years. I'm sharing some healing thoughts I've had, and this is presentation number 5. The topic is the immune system. The immune system is a collection of cells in our blood that have the capacity to uh, swallow other cells, make antibodies against germs, and create symptoms of illness. The usual presentation of the immune system is that they are the policemen of the body. They distinguish foreign from self antigens. A protein in a germ that the body recognizes as a target is called an antigen, and the protein that is directed against it is called an antibody. The immune system includes several white blood cells. One is called a leukocyte. It is a cell with little particles of capsules of material in the cytoplasm, which contain enzymes. And when you have an infection, a boil with dead germs, you need to clean it up. And these cells can activate their enzymes and digest that so that the waste material could be carried away. The second cell in the immune system is called a lymphocyte. A lymphocyte is a cell that interacts with the macrophages. When a macrophage swallows a germ and then brings it back, there is an exchange of the germ protein to the lymphocyte, and that is a process which recognizes the protein target. And in a process that I'm not going to go into detail, the lymphocytes can activate other cells to make antibodies, and there is a memory in the system of previous antibodies. So if I have the measles and I go through that reaction and my body responds to it, the presentation of a measles virus years later would activate the immune system to attack it to prevent another infection, or so the theory goes. There are cells called macrophages, a large eater macrophage. These are the cells that can go in and swallow up other cells and process them and in some ways digest them. So they're kind of like the garbage trucks collecting this junk. Then there are other cells with specific, one is called the killer cell that can use the immune system to destroy another cell. In addition to the cells, there are antibodies that they make. And one kind of antibody is IgM, which is kind of like a police net. It's a large molecule that can connect to each other and surround an area. It's like cordoning off a crime scene. IgG antibodies are targeted against bacteria, and they attack and land on the part of the germ that they're targeted to. And when the germ is filled with this, then they can surround it and process it and kill the germ. Then there are eosinophils, which are kind of the dye shows kind of reddish particles scattered throughout the cell. That has to do with parasites and allergic reactions. Part of this system also includes proteins made by the liver called, okay, the immune cells make the cytokines. Those are hormone-like elements that have to do with coordinating an inflammation that attracts people, that opens up the pores and allows fluid to go out of cells into the other tissue, things like that. Okay. Now, from my experience, I believe that the immune system is not so much a police force, but a housekeeping department. My observation is when immune cells are activated, they're helping clean up the body. And we'll go into more detail about that. If you look at the various types of illnesses, I believe that there are five stages of a disease. The first disease is illustrated by the childhood illnesses. The child is 1 or 2 or 3 years old, and suddenly they get a runny nose and congestion and mucus coming out and a little cough. They could have a fever, they could have a rash, they could have vomiting, they could have diarrhea. There's some active process that they go through with the symptoms of their illness. Many of those kind of illnesses are caused by viruses. When you have a child get sick, usually the illness is a short time, a couple days, and they're better. And if we think about a housekeeping process, in the young kid, the run nose for a couple of days and it clears. The rash breaks out and clears. The diarrhea comes and goes. And so the illness is temporary and short-lived, and the child gets better. Okay. Now, as the child grows older and we have adults, we have similar diseases, but they are recurrent and chronic. We're talking about chronic inflammations. Okay. A person every year gets colds, gets the flu, has asthma attacks, has allergic symptoms like hay fever and eczema, things like that. Okay. In this case, instead of having a full-blown healing episode like the child, they are having intermittent stages of cleansing. If they put waste into the lungs, you get asthma. If they put waste into the skin, you have eczema and itching. If they put waste into the bowels, you could have an inflammatory bowel disease. You can have recurrent pneumonia. You can have chronic inflammation that damages the lungs, like a fibrosis, things like that. Many people, most people, live with chronic imbalance in their body. And the body goes along for a while and then acts up. It's overloaded. It's stop. We have to clear the auditorium kind of thing. The last movie at night, and then they have to clear everything out. Okay. The third stage of the immune system is, instead of having waste come out through the outlets, like the nose, the throat, the lungs, the skin, the bowels, this time the disease, the immune system is dealing with a toxicity in one of the organs. And these are called autoimmune diseases. We don't fully understand those diseases. The original understanding was the difference between a self and foreign. And right now, autoimmune diseases like psoriasis and lupus and rheumatoid arthritis are considered where your immune system is making a mistake. It's kind of like friendly fire. Your own soldiers are killing other soldiers. And you know, the immune system is really going off target and destroying itself, and it has to be stopped. Those kind of diseases usually they flare up and they get down, and they flare up and they come down. Let's take some examples of that. There's a disease called regional ileitis, where lymphocytes are causing inflammation in the small intestines. There is multiple sclerosis, where the immune system is causing inflammation in the nervous system, so that if it's in the brain, you can get weakness in an arm, you can get blindness symptoms, there can be speech symptoms, there can be walking symptoms and balance symptoms, all those things. There's a flare up, and then it abates. And over time, it can do a lot of damage. Okay, lupus erythematosus, it's called the wolf with the red face. The original disease was where autoimmune disease is attacking the skin, and you would have a rash, like a mask, and it would be red. And so the immune cells were attacking the skin and the blood vessels in the skin. It can also occur in the lungs, in the brain, in the joints. Rheumatoid arthritis is an inflammation of the joints, in the fingers, in the knees. And you can get deformities and severe arthritis. Okay. We don't know why these autoimmune diseases occur. They thought at one time that, okay, rheumatic fever, okay, the streptococcal infection of the throat has an antibody, and when your body has an antigen, and when your body makes antibodies against it, that strep germ looks like your heart or looks like your kidney. So in the course of attacking the outside germs, it's going to start attacking your valves in the heart or your joints or your kidneys and cause damage. Many of the chronic diseases of the kidneys are such a immune process that damages and causes kidney failure. Okay. The fourth category of diseases involving the immune system involve the accumulation of waste in the blood vessels. Okay, the classic example is atherosclerosis, where cholesterol deposits, there's inflammation in the valves get thick and hardened, and at some point when the heart arteries are clogged, you get a heart attack. When the blood vessels to the brain are hardened and the blood that doesn't go through anymore, you get a stroke. Okay. If you have a chronic smoker and they're getting this disease of the blood vessels to the legs, and the circulation to the legs gets poorer, they have pain, they have what they call gangrene, when the shutdown of blood causes the tissue to die, like the tips of the toes and things like that. The blood vessel diseases also involves bleeding disorders or blood clots. Okay. The fifth category of disease is cancer. What? Okay. What happens when you have an infection? Your body, like a diabetic, has sugar deposited on the skin, and that attracts the germs to eat it. And then you get an infection, a germ comes in, starts growing in your skin, and you get a boil, you get pimples, you get a cellulitis with a rash, redness and swelling and pain. The germs are growing because they're feeding on the sugar or the waste, the tissue, okay? When a cell in the colon or the lung is subjected to years and years of waste, and there's a growth of cells, there can be a mutation. And that mutation is involved in turning the tissue cell into a germ-like cell that just keeps multiplying. If a person, in a normal state, if a person has a if a cells reproduce and they have a mistake, so the chromosomes don't work properly, they will get an abnormal cell. And your body is so brilliant. It has the capacity to identify an abnormal cell and get rid of it. The process is called apoptosis, which you don't. It's programmed cell death. This cell is going. It's like you go to you buy some fruit at the market, and in the refrigerator there's one bad orange or one bad lemon or something, and you you throw it away, right? We don't need that cell. That's harmful cell. Okay, so this is happening in the body with apoptosis. However, when the mutation occurs and the person has the control mechanism of cells has changed, those cells that turn into cancer do not have that safety valve to stop them from growing, and they continue, and that's where the cancer grows. Okay. In the study of the genetics of cancer, they now, they know about what we call carcinogens, substances that promote cancer. So the cigarettes and the nitrates in hot dogs and all these, the radiation effects of nuclear waste or atomic bomb, those kind of things that disrupt the cells and cause mutations are now identified. Okay. And we try to prevent people from being exposed to that and have safety requirements and things like that. Okay. Okay, we're going to talk more about cancer in further presentations. Let us now think about research. We know that if a person smokes all of their life, they have a chance of getting bronchitis and lung cancer. They have risk factors. Okay. Now, Colin Campbell, the researcher from Cornell University, which we've mentioned, before he got on the China study and do the research in China, he was doing research in the Philippines. And there was a fungus that grew on peanuts and corn and was causing cancer. And he wanted to know why, what was going on, what exactly did this do? The substance that the fungus was making is called aflatoxin, and it promoted cancer. Okay, now why does one person is exposed to this and gets sick and another person doesn't? What's going on? Okay, he took this to the laboratory and exposed animals to the aflatoxin, but varied their diet. Okay, so if we have X number of rats which are exposed to this dose of aflatoxin, and have a normal rat diet with X amount of protein, a high percentage of would get cancer. However, when the amount of protein in the diet went down, none of the animals got cancer. So in addition to the tissue, the fungus, the carcinogen, there was a sliding scale of the diet affecting the susceptibility to the cancer. Now, I believe that we have laws of nature. There is a design of the human body. As you study anatomy and physiology, it is so amazing the brilliant design of the body. How do we see? How do we hear? How do we have reflexes? How do we think? All of that is amazing. And yet, in our mortality, we are subject to all these diseases. If we believe, at least if from my point of view, the concept of self-reliant medicine is to have patients who are at risk to have diseases look for the best pattern of healing designed for themselves within the limits of their genetics and their environment and all that kind of stuff. What can they do to improve their chances of staying healthy and living longer and minimize the risk of heart disease, high blood pressure, cancer, things like that? Okay. One concept is that we want to go back to the body's ideal metabolism. We want to have a lifestyle that is restorative, that's self-healing, and does not aggravate the balance of the metabolism. So for instance, if a person is diabetic and they don't tolerate sugar and they're 50 pounds overweight and they have high blood pressure and they have early kidney disease and early problems with their cataracts and the diabetic retina, the eye problems, what are they going to do? How can we prevent that? Now that we have electronic medical records and we can network and have doctors all over the community who see the same patient, gather all that information and do research. I believe back in the 1950s, there was the Framingham Heart Study, in which the people in a community, Framingham, Massachusetts, were examined and followed for 30 years. And they monitored their blood pressure, their blood sugar, their cholesterol, their state of well-being, whatever x-rays or tests or blood tests that they needed to do. And over a large population, over a long period of time, they discovered much about atherosclerosis, heart disease, strokes, and the whole whole determination of cholesterol and things like that that now define cardiology were researched at that point. Now, I'm an idealist and I have these kind of crazy ideas. So we know that modern research is mostly getting to develop drugs and chemotherapy and all sorts of things like that. And if we're going to have people do research on how to stay healthy and prevent that, that's not profit making. So the only people that can really do this are people that are interested in self-reliant medicine and are willing to just, start with their pattern of living and make changes and document this over time in collaboration with their checkups and their medical diagnosis and treatment. And if we can demonstrate that a diet that is closest to nature, it's closest to fresh fruits and vegetables and minimally cooked foods and not with heavy oil and long cooked processed foods and all the junk foods, all those kind of things. If they can stick with that, let's see what happens, particularly if you have children of people with diseases. Okay, this child had a father that had a stroke. This girl had a mother with diabetes, who got multiple sclerosis, who has lupus, who has all those kind of things. And if a person, if you follow that patient, their mother had multiple sclerosis, and their first symptom of multiple sclerosis was at age 20 or age 40 or age 60. What's the difference? How does this, whatever you're doing in terms of your diet, prevent the waste from building up to trigger the disease, the cancer, or whatever? That's the question. We don't know. When you have a certain disease, you can't, now you take, prunes and apple juicers. No, we can't. That's this food doesn't cure that disease. It's more complicated than that. It has multifactorial. And when we do epidemiological research, we look at the patterns of life, and this person gets this disease, and that's correlated with high cholesterol and this other disease is correlated with liver toxin, whatever it is. We need to do that research so that we develop patients who are models for good, healthy lifestyle. And the people who are willing, not everybody's willing to do that. They go to the doctor, they want to this, they want to have that, and they'd rather take a pill than change their life. And that's what our society has turned into. We want to ask basic questions. Can the body heal itself if you let it? What does that mean? If one of my patients had allergies and asthma, and she loved eating cheese, but discovered that cheese aggravated her asthma. Okay, is she going to say, I'm not going to take that anymore? And she's going to avoid that unclean food in her diet and stay healthy, or not? And nowadays, the idea is, don't worry, if you get a symptom, we have a pill to help it. And you can keep doing if you want to keep overeating and stuff and you have heartburn, take this pill, take that tablet, whatever it is. If you have a symptom, we're going to give you the medicine and that's fine, and don't worry about it. But I'm saying, let's do something about it and then document that so that there's enough people that are having a positive result that it can convince and be role models for the people that need to do that. Okay. You've had enough of my theory. Okay. In our next presentation, we will talk about allergies more specifically. Thank you. Bye-bye.